Alrighty, so today we are going to finish up the review for these midweek action for match week number 20, and I'm going to reiterate what I said last time when I did these review of these midweek games. It feels like Don Gabbard is purposely making sure all these games is high scoring and also have some late drama in most of these games because I swear this season I feel like the midweek action has been more exciting compared to the weekend's action. And again, I think that's by design from Don Gabbard, making sure that hey, you gotta also pay attention to MLS game in the middle of the week and also making sure fans also attend these midweek games because I know midweek games it can be tough in terms of attendance, although this year it seems like it's a little different because I've seen some stadiums where even for midweek games it's wellly attended. But yeah, I mean, with just so much entertainment in these midweek action, I mean, I feel like this is really forcing people that hey, I want to go to the stadium and watch these crazy action, and also maybe even tune in on TV because you never know in terms of what kind of crazy action these midweek games could produce. And the first one is definitely the case because the first one where we talk about Atlanta United taking on NYCFC. In an Atlanta game, there has to be a late goals. I mean, it's almost like it's given this season where in a game that Atlanta United is featuring, there's got to be either a late goal scored by them or a late goal scored by their opposition that kind of changed the complexion of this game. And that's exactly what happened in this one. But it didn't take long for this game to get the first goal. In fact, 40 seconds into this game, Gabby Pereira would score from Parks to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead. They mentioned that Gabriel Pereira has scored 4 goals in the last 3 games for Atlanta United. Yeah, it's safe to say that he loved playing against Atlanta United. And as by the end of this, just a little spoiler, he would have 6 goals in the last 4 games against Atlanta United. Lennon did try to respond, but Barraza was able to deny him on the free kick. But then in the 11th minute, Atlanta does get the response. It's Tyler Wolf scoring from Fortune to tie the game up at one apiece. But yeah, that's one that Barraza should have done better. I mean, with the way that one hits here, hit near post there, a goalkeeper has to cover that near post and have to save that one. And it just kind of five-hole Barraza there a little bit. And yeah, Atlanta of course ties the game up at one apiece. And also, by the way, this won't be the last time I'll mention how goalkeeper could have done better and probably should have saved a chance because there were definitely some iffy goalkeeping performance in some of these games where goal probably shouldn't have happened if a goalkeeper could have done better. And then Wolf looked to try to get his second goal and give Atlanta the lead, but he hits it right to Peraza in the 37th minute, and we head to halftime with this one tie at one apiece. Now, in the second half, Guzan did deny Ledesma from close, as I thought it was a good start again for NYCFC. They were looking to try to retake the lead, and they do. In the 56th minute, it's Gabby Pereira again. This time he scored from Ledesma to tie the game, or not tie the game, but retake the lead for NYCFC. Cho did try to respond for Atlanta, but he puts it wide from close before Sadic also does the same thing, but this time from long range in the 72nd minute. Atlanta was pressing for an equalizer. Gutman hits one right to Barraza in the 88th minute, but then in the 5th minute stoppage time, and like I said, you know that there's going to be drama in an Atlanta United game. Like, if you're watching an Atlanta United game, whether you're a neutral or you're a fan of either of these teams, you can't just switch off TV because you know there's going to be some crazy thing in a late goal that is scored, and it happened again in this one as Nick Firmino would score his first career MLS goal from Lennon and Cho. By the way, Nick Firmino, no relation to Roberto Firmino, who's been rumored to come to MLS. But yeah, what a moment for him to score his first career MLS goal to tie the game up at two apiece and salvage a point for Atlanta United, which is exactly what happened. And in terms of the shots of this one, 12 shots compared to just 3 that NYCFC had. Yeah, UCFC didn't have a lot of shots in this one, but they definitely took advantage of the limited amount of shots that they have with 2 of them went in out of the 3 shots on goal compared to 5 that Atlanta has. 2 shots off target compared to none that NYCFC had. 5 shots that was blocked compared to none that NYCFC has had. So it's been a while since I've seen a team that has all their shots being put on goal. Usually you see one that's off target and one that's blocked. That's not the case for NYCFC in this one. And then the possession wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that NYCFC has in this game. And again, I think coming out of this game, neither of these teams will be happy, mainly because, for NYCFC, they were so close of getting a much needed win. I mean, this team has gone through a long winless run. They need to get a win to really get the site kicked back to this winning mentality, and they don't get it. And for Atlanta, I mean, I don't think they played relatively well in this game. I mean, they were able to salvage a draw in the end, which is better than a loss, but you can't just keep dropping points at home like what Atlanta United has done. And also, this is fifth, even though it seems like it's kind of sustainable for Atlanta with them scoring late goals almost every single week to salvage themselves a win or a draw, it's not sustainable. And that as much as I make the jokes about how Atlanta games tends to have a late goal, whether it's against them or they score a late goal, I mean that's something that I'm pretty sure Atlanta United fans are hoping that's not going to be the case in the future. And again, it's just not sustainable. You always scoring late goals every single game. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Cincinnati and Toronto. So there was no drama in this one. I mean, this one was pretty obvious who was gonna win, and that of course is Cincinnati. And with this win, they also made some history in this game after beating TFC. Now, early on, Arias would hit one right to Greg. If you wonder who is Greg, well, he used to be the backup goalkeeper for Minnesota United. I remember when he came in for Tyler Miller. I've always called him Greg because his last name is like Regis Singh and something like that. I mean, it's kind of hard to pronounce. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna call him Greg because it's easier to pronounce. And now that he's with TFC as the backup goalkeeper for Sean Johnson, and Sean Johnson, of course, got a game off in this one. I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna call him Greg, just like what I call him when he was still with Minnesota United. Now, in the 13th minute, Acosta would then hit one right to Greg before I thought it was all Cincinnati early in this one. Like, it was not a big surprise. They were pressing to get the opening goal. They're playing very, very well right now. Barriel with curls one just wide from close before Powell would flash one from long range. And then on the other end, Bernadeschi puts it wide as that was really TFC first shot, and Cincinnati almost got caught there and conceded against the run of play. But then in the 35th minute, the pressure that they had throughout the game paid off as Arias would score here to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. Originally, it was a good save there from Greg, but it just kind of fall right to Arias, who puts it into the empty net. And yeah, that's Cincinnati leading 1-0 in this one. Osorio would then look for an instant response for TFC, but he missed wide from long range. And then Benedeski would hit one right to Sautano. I thought it was a good response for Toronto. I mean, I thought they would easily just crumble after giving that goal, but they look well in terms of responding and trying to get the equalizer before halftime. But we do head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 1-0, and it didn't take long for them to get that second goal in the second half because in the 54th minute, who else? Lucho Acosta scoring from Angulo there to make it 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati. But he can probably thank Greg for that because, yeah, this was a bad mistake from Greg. He basically gifted right to Angulo. Angulo then plays it to Lucho Acosta, which he was found in acres of space at the top of the arc. Yeah, if you give Lucho Acosta that much space, he's gonna punish you every time, especially with the form that he's been in. So yeah, that made it 2-0. Then 63rd minute, it would be 3-0, and this is where I'm pretty sure I kind of stopped really keeping track too much of this game because we knew that this game was over. It's Don Baji scoring from Acosta here to make it 3-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Insigne then pulls it just wide from close before Santano would deny instantly. And now the big question is not that Cincinnati would get the win, but can Santano keep his clean sheet? And he's definitely hoping to do so after denying Insigne here. Arias then puts it wide off the volley, and he just sliced that one wide. He was very close to scoring his second goal and the fourth for Cincinnati. But yeah, in the end, Cincinnati was able to win 3-0 in this one. And with this win, that's 10 straight home wins for Cincinnati, which is the first time that this has happened since the 2002 San Jose Earthquakes. Team also got 10 straight home wins to start the season, and I think that's actually a record still stands today as the most home wins in a row by any teams, and I wouldn't be surprised Cincinnati might break that record. I mean, at home this season, it has just like they have just been unstoppable at home, and really this season in general, they have just been unstoppable, and that I think it is pretty clear that they are going to be the team that may win the supporter shield. Actually, may win might be just a cautious pessimistic way to say it. They are starting to run away with the supporter shield race, and now the question is that can they beat New England mark from a couple of years ago of getting most points ever in a single regular season? Because the point total that they are right now, I think they would surpass New England, and I think as we get closer and closer to that point, I'm definitely going to make a video talk about Cincinnati and kind of compare their run to New England, and maybe even compare it to their run with LAFC when they broke the mark for the most point in a regular season, and we'll see whether if Cincinnati can do so. Because as I mentioned, Cincinnati, they are definitely running away with the Supporter Shield race. And the reason why I say that is because moving on in the next match, Nashville was definitely a team that was trying to catch up to Cincinnati with the Supporter Shield race. They took a rare L in this one against Montreal. And again, this is the thing I said about Montreal when I talk about the surprise and disappointment. And some might be surprised that I put Montreal in the surprise list, but consider how the start of the season has been and look like they look like they were completely done and going for a rebuild. Montreal has recovered from that in a big way, and a lot of that has to do because the home form has been just sensational this season. I mean, Stade Saputo is just basically a fortress this season, and it's been becoming one of the toughest places to go on the road and get points. And Nashville kind of found that out the hard way. Though early on, Shrinier would put it wide from long range, as I thought there was not much happening in this one early. It was only 1-0 in terms of the shots through 20 minutes. But in the 27 minutes, the opening goal of this game and what turns out to be the winning goal of this game for Montreal was scored. It's Bryce Duke scoring from Ibrahim and Toy to give Montreal a 1-0 lead, but that's one that I think really should have saved it. I mean, that one, it was kind of hit straight toward Willis, and with the quality of goalkeeper like Joe Willis, you feel like he should have saved that one. But Montreal wouldn't care. They were leading 1-0. Willis then denied Lassiter from close before Duke tried to go for his second goal of the game, but puts it high. But the momentum was definitely with Montreal. They were definitely looking to try to get that second goal. Though Bauer did had Nashville's first shots in the 45th minute, but he hits it high from the corner. And yeah, we had to halftime with Montreal leading 1-0. Now, in the second half, whatever Gary Smith said to his team at halftime, it definitely worked because, yeah, I'm pretty sure he definitely had some choice words at halftime toward his players, as that was really one of the worst first half we've seen Nashville have played this season. And they come out strong in the second half. Washington would hit it high from close range before Schaffelberg skies one from close, and one that I feel like Jacob Schaffelberg should clearly score there. But there was no doubt that Nashville was on the front foot. They were pressing for the equalizer. Washington then had a tap in, but was crucially blocked away by Shrinier. And then Siwas would deny Mukhtar from long range. Mukhtar didn't really had a strong game in this one, and that's a rare thing to say because Hani Mukhtar has been just unstoppable in the last couple of games. But credit Montreal really shutting him down for most part of this game and limited the chances that he has. Lassiter then puts it wide from close before Willis denied Toy in the near post, and it seems like Montreal is got back into this one because they were kind of under siege a little bit in the beginning of the second half, but they got back into this one and they were looking for that killer second goal. Wanyama would puts it wide from long range before he hits one right to Willis just a couple of minutes later, and then Saliba would hits one right to Willis, and you just wonder these missed opportunity for Montreal. Is it going to come back to haunt them? Because Nashville has difference maker on this team, and especially a guy by the name of Hani Mukhtar, who even though he's been quiet in this one, it only takes one chance, like one good chance, one good look for Hani Mukhtar, and it's in the back of the net. But in the 88th minute, Zimmerman would hit one right to see Was, and in the end, Montreal they hold on to get a big 1-0 win against Nashville. And the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 10 that Nashville has, 2 shots on goal for the 6 that Montreal has. Both team had 6 shots off target, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Montreal has in this one. And like what I said in that video, talk about the most surprising and disappointing team. Montreal is definitely making the playoffs this season, mainly because they're doing the old strategy of if you win all your home games and able to get a draw sometimes on the road, you're gonna make it to the playoffs. And especially with the expanded playoffs this season, it feels like that formula is going to work, unlike previous season where only like 50% of the team, of course, make it to the playoffs. But for Nashville, very frustrating resort. I mean, they definitely got themselves back in the game in the second half, but yeah, this was a rare off game for Gary Smith and Nashville side, and also a rare off game for Hani Mukhtar too. I mean, besides that one chance that he has in the 55th minute, he was pretty much kept in check by Montreal in this one, which is again just show you how impressive that is, since Hani Mukhtar has been just unstoppable for this Nashville team for the past couple of games. But now moving on in the next match, we go to Red Bull Arena, where the Red Bulls take on Charlotte FC. And I'm not gonna lie, this game was definitely more entertaining than what I thought it was going to be, especially in the second half too, because that's where we saw some really crazy thing that happened in this game. Though not that that's saying that nothing happened in the first half, because Ben Bender happened in the first half, in the first 20 minutes, as he's score here in the 13th minute from Kalina to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. That was the first shot of the game, and it was also a rare Route 1 build up and a rare time that you see a goalkeeper ends up on the assist list. I mean, anytime when you see a goalkeeper ends up on the assist list, you know it's probably going to be a Route 1, and indeed that was the case. It was a great Route 1 ball from Kalina, and then Ben Bender, with a lovely first touch there, and just tucked it in to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. And then 9 minutes later, he would score again. This time he scored from Capetti and Meram to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. It was a dream start for them, and especially for Ben Bender, who I think he only scored one goal previously coming into this one. Though after that, we kind of had a long spell of play without anything happen, which is kind of what I expected in this game. Both of these teams, they haven't really played some of the most thrilling soccer throughout the season. They kind of both of these teams kind of always tends to keep things tight, especially in the midfield. And the next chance we had didn't came until the 44th minute when Manuel would head it wide for the Red Bulls, and we do head to halftime with Charlotte leading 2-0. Well, that lead quickly cut into half in the second half, as in the 53rd minute. Dante Van Zier would score from Manuel, and oh god, oh yeah, Duncan there. That's kind of embarrassing that I couldn't even read my own handwriting for a second, but yeah, that cut the lead in half for Charlotte. But then the Red Bulls almost commit a big mistake, and especially for Carlos Cornell, he had a blunder moment here where he came off his lines there, and instead of when you're a goalkeeper and you come off your line, just clear the ball. Like just clear the ball. Don't be too cute and trying to pass the ball to your teammate when you're coming off the line. But Cornell didn't get that memo because he decided to pass that one instead of clearing it away, and it goes straight to a Charlotte player. And then Capetti was trying to chip Cornell, who was way off his line, into the empty net, but missed wide there. And yeah, I think Cornell was very lucky that that's not a goal there, because that was a blunder mistake there from Carlos Cornell. But then on the other end, the post would deny Casperas on the free kick, and then Kalina had to deny Van Zier of a second goal for the Red Bulls, and all of a sudden the momentum was with the hosts. Like the Red Bulls were pressing for the equalizer, and they get it in the 58th minute. It's Cameron Harper scoring from Nealis and Duncan to tie the game up at 2 apiece. Luquinhas then trying to make it 3-2, but he puts it wide from close before Kalina denied Manuel from close. And other than that one that one part, or actually I'm sorry, what am I saying? Anyway, let's move on into the next one. As time of course wind down, the Red Bulls continue to press for the winner, and Charlotte, you feel like they were on the ropes a little bit. They were looking vulnerable at the back, which is not the first time we've said about Christian Latanzio's team, especially late in games. But in the 87th minute, Kalina would deny Fernandez in the front post before he denied Harper from close in the third minute of stoppage time. And Kalina again single-handedly keeping this tie for Charlotte in this one. Then Agami Yang, though, on the other end, was in on goal there, but he was robbed by Cornell in the front post. So yeah, Charlotte came from looked like they were just gonna squeeze out a draw out of this game, to one that they almost won it late in this one if it wasn't for Cornell making up for that blunder that he had in the 54th minute by making a crucial save there. And yeah, in the end, it ends in a 2-2 draw in this one. Shots in this one: 15 shots compared to 6 that Charlotte had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that Charlotte has, 5 shots off target for the 2 that Charlotte has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Charlotte has in this game. And again, very entertaining game, especially in the second half, and especially we kind of had some MLS after dark kind of energy with the way that both teams almost got the late winner in this one. But overall, I think if you're Charlotte, they'll be the more happier side, even though they blew the 2-0 lead, because they would look like they were really hanging on in the last bit. And for the Red Bulls, very frustrating, because they even though I know they came back from 2-0 down, they had their opportunity to make it get 3-2, but they just could not solve Selena for the third time in this game. With that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last two games to finish off my review for these midweek action of match week number 20. So moving on, in the next game is another 2-2 draw, this time between Orlando and the Philadelphia Union. And this game kind of almost was similar to the last one, where most of the action happened in the second half, and we definitely had some MLS After Dark energy late in stoppage time in this one too. So early on in the first half, just like the last game, the first goal came in the 13th minute, and this time it's actually from the host, as Duncan McGuire would score for the second consecutive game from Ojeda and Pereira to give Orlando City a 1-0 lead, and that was the first shot for Orlando up to that point. Elliott did try to respond instantly, but he missed high there before Carlos would had a header that was tipped over by Bendig. Joe Bendig, of course, facing against his former team, as Andre Blake, of course, are currently on international duty. But then Angulo would then hit one right to Bendig, or actually he hits one right to Bendig, as Orlando was looking for more. They were looking for the second goal before the interval. But we do head to halftime with Orlando leading 1-0. Now, in the 52nd minute, Steinheier would then rob Carranza from point blank range. I mean, with all the good goals that Carranza have scored this season, he has had some ones ones that he probably should be burying. This is one that I think he should be buried, even though it was a great save here from Steinheier. But then in the 54th minute, that save turns out to be big because Orlando would make it 2-0. It's Angulo scoring from Ojeda and Araujo to make it 2-0 in favor of Orlando City. I feel like Joe Bendick probably should have done better. I mean, he didn't really react very well in terms of saving that one, and that I feel like if Andre Blake was in goal, that probably would have been saved. Though that being said, 6 minutes later, the Union does get one back. It's Jack McLean scoring from Flock to make it 2-1 in favor of Orlando, and this time it's Stadahire, the one that I feel like made a bit of a goalkeeping blunder, as I think he just got completely caught there. Like the ball was coming in. I think he was worried maybe one of the Union player was gonna hit that one, so he stand on his lines, and nobody really touched it, and that one just kind of go past him. So yeah, not a great goal that was conceded by Stadahire there. I mean, in that moment, I feel like if that is the case, Stadahire should just come off his lines and punch that away. Like if you're kind of unsure doing that point, you shouldn't just kind of froze like that, because that might not be a good moment if you decide to do that, and that's kind of what happened with Stadahire in this one. But nevertheless, it cut the lead in half, and then Angulo would miss a sitter from close range. Yeah, Angulo would definitely want this one back. This was a big opportunity for Orlando to restore that two-goal lead. Though on the other end, Sullivan would hit one right to Stadahire, and then it looked like it was 3-1 for Orlando when Angulo puts it into the back of net. But the problem was, VAR checked to see whether or not if there was actually a foul on the beginning of the attack, because it looked like in the beginning of the attack, Martinez was fouled by Cara there, and indeed that, of course, was the case. And Jose Martinez definitely took that personally, because just 3 minutes later, he would score his first career MLS goal. And we just wonder, with at times Jose Martinez try those long range effort, is one of them eventually going to go in? Tonight was the night where one of those actually went in, as he scored here on an absolute banger, and definitely a goal of the week contention, and probably the goal of the week for this week. I mean, that was hit with such a velocity and such great accuracy that, yeah, Stade had no chance in terms of saving that one, and the game was tied up at two apiece. But then in the fourth minute stoppage time, the post would deny Enrique from close, as Orlando almost made it 3-2. And then Gaston Gonzalez had to come off with an injury, but Orlando already used all their subs, so they were down to 10 men. And the Union were looking to capitalize that, but the Post once again get away of a team potentially late winner. This time denying Uru from point blank, and one that, again, for Michael Uru, he's got to bury that one. That was from close range there. That should have been 3-2 in favor of the Union, but clearly pure MLS After Dark energy, where when it's the last time you see where both team hit the post in stoppage time and potentially getting the late winning goal. But eventually it did ends in a 2-2 draw, and the shots in this one, 10 shots for the 8 that Orlando City has, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Orlando City has, 2 shots off target for the 4 that the Union has, 1 shot out block for the 2 that Orlando City has, and possession wise 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that Orlando City has in this game. Again, just pure chaos in terms of what we saw late in this one, and that, overall, I mean, for Orlando, they'll probably won't be happy because they blew a 2-0 lead in this one, and that, there were moments that they could have got that third goal. But for the Union, they'll probably be the more happier side, especially coming back from a 2-0 deficit. Although they would love to have steal one late if it wasn't for the post getting it in the way of that chances that Uru had in the 6 minute stoppage time. But that being said, moving on into the last game of the sport, and the last game I want to review in this midweek action is St. Louis and RSL, and I think it's official. RSL is now the true road warriors of MLS. I mean, it's hard to believe that this team for the past couple of seasons they've always had problems in terms of playing on the road. Not this season because they got a big 3-1 win against St. Louis in this one, and they started well in this one too because Ruiz in the 4th minute hits one right to Berkey. I mean, Pablo Ruiz must be feeling it because he's been scoring some bangers this season, including one that he scored against DC where he chipped the goalkeeper. Luna then had a shot that was clear off the line after just a bad turnover by St. Louis. Speaking of a guy that's feeling it, Diego Luna is definitely feeling it too. I mean, after just a great U20 World Cup, he's definitely carried that form into his club level too. But it was a strong start for RSL as they were pushing to get the early lead. Bloom then blast one into the stands, which also came off of a turnover from RSL. There was definitely some turnover issue for both of these teams, but in the 15th minute, RSL takes the lead, and as I mentioned, Diego Luna, who has had a great U20 for the US. He's definitely carried it into the club form, and that's good news for RSL because he scored here from Maswowski and Ruiz to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL. Just come off a lightning counter attack for this RSL team, though the lead did not last long. It only lasted 6 minutes, as in the 21st minute, you know who else is also red hot? Nicholas Giacchini, because he scored here from Nowinski and Pompeu to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and then Vasilev would puts it high on the free kick before he pulls it wide from long range, and the momentum was with the host. Like you just feel like St. Louis was going to eventually get that second goal, though Krylak did head one right to Berkey in the 45th minute. We head to halftime, tied at 1 apiece between both of these teams. It wouldn't stay tied for long though in the second half because in the 48th minute, Krylak would score from Chang and Luna to give RSL a 2-1 lead. It was a great game for Damir Krylak in this one too. And then Chang would puts it high from long range before Berkey denied Ruiz from long range. And again, another strong start for RSL coming out of the break. They were hungry to get that third goal. Giacchini then looked for his second, but he missed wide there before McMath denied Stroud after RSL turned the ball over because they ran into the usual St. Louis press. But in the 66th minute, Damir Krylak would score again. This time he scored here from Brody and Luna to give RSL a 3-1 lead, and that completely silenced the crowd at City Park. Like that was probably the most quietest I've heard City Park this season because yeah, they were stunned. Like RSL just come into it with and playing with some swagger, and now all of a sudden they were leading 3-1 in this one, and it could have been 4-1 if it wasn't for Berkey denying Luna in the front post. I mean, Roman Berkey, I know he conceded 3 goals in this one, but this game is definitely not on him. I mean, he had to make some big save where this could have been easily 4 or 5-1 in favor of RSL if it wasn't for Roman Berkey making some good save. His backline completely hung him out to dry, and that's been an issue for St. Louis in the last couple of games where that back line, which was very solid in the beginning of the season, it started to be leaky lately. And I think a lot of that has to do with injuries that has started to hamper this team. I mean, we talk about the injuries concern with the St. Louis team, especially on the attacking end. And I do feel like, losing Joe Klaus was definitely a huge loss for this team. But fortunately, Nicholas Giacchini has stepped up in a big way. But unfortunately, losing Edouard Leuven is even worse, and that it just feels like right now there really isn't a good replacement for him right now, and that you start to see it on the attacking end too. But again, this St. Louis side, it feels like that defense has started to show some real cracks, and that this is where they are really hoping that Joachim Nelson would eventually come back as soon as possible. I mean, I haven't heard any word about Joachim Nelson. They said that in the beginning of the season it was probably going to be around May. That's when they reevaluate and see if he's ready. Oh, they desperately need him right now because that backline has been really leaky in the last couple of games, and as a result, it's another loss for St. Louis. Now 4 games without a win, and the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 11 that St. Louis had, 9 shots on goal for the 3 that St. Louis had, 6 shots off target for the 1 that RSL has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that St. Louis had. And it feels like RSL is trying to follow the Minnesota United formula early in the season, where hey, if we are not doing well at home, might as well just do well on the road and play well. And it seems like that, of course, is the case. Again, it feels so weird to say that because RSL has not been a good road team for the past couple of years, and all of a sudden now this season it seems like they've been so good on the road. Whereas at home, that's when they kind of have struggled a little bit. Which again, usually the Riot has been a place where RSL has done well because of the altitude and teams can't deal with that. But that's just not been the case this season. And again, I'll say the same thing I said about RSL that I said about the Loons earlier this season. You figure out their home form, this team is going to be a good team. But that's the big if we're going to say about this RSL team, about whether or not if they can carry these similar kind of plays where they play well on the road, and whether they can replicate that when they play at home. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review, looking at all 6 of these games from the midweek action. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 2 games and also the 4 games I mentioned on the board. We got a full slate of MLS action in terms of the weekend's action, but we also will start to have Gold Cup action again and again. With Gold Cup action, I'll probably won't do reviews for US game until when we get to the knockout stage, because let's be honest, I feel like this Gold Cup, I mean, the Gold Cup, I feel like it started to becoming almost like a glorified kind of tournament, knowing the fact that I'm pretty sure the real tournament that the US and along with the other CONCACAF giants like Mexico and now Canada, they're more focused on the Copa America that's going to be happening in just a year from now. But for the Gold Cup action, I'll probably just do reviews, starting into the knockout stage, because really in the group stage the US are going to be playing against a bunch of no name team, and that most of these games are just going to be blown out, and really won't judge in terms of how the US have played. But one thing I will say about the US is that in this Gold Cup roster, it's pretty much an MLS All-Star kind of team in terms of it, because there's a lot of MLS players in this Gold Cup roster. And the Gold Cup is also kind of like the January training camp, where in the January training camp for the US, usually this is a time for a lot of these players to just kind of get themselves a cap for the US, and make their dream come true playing for their country, but also for some that they want to break into the 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 main A team of this team. And I feel like that's going to be the case with this Gold Cup, with the way that they're kind of bringing a B and C team coming into this, and we'll see whether or not if some of these players can be part of the main US team, and the best team that the US can feel in future tournament. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.